Friend of the show, Synthetic Sports, made this video, how Joel Embiid became the NBA's most hated player. This is pretty interesting because I made a poll last week regarding who is the most hated player in the league, Joel Embiid or Jason Tatum. And first frame, he already talking about Jason Tatum, man. So let's see what they have to say. Shout out to Synthetic Sports. Links to their video will be in the description down below. And let's get straight into it.
So last week, both Embiid and Tatum, they received DMPs in back-to-back Olympic games. There was a little bit of debate on Twitter, like who's the more hated player? You got Tatum, who he's basically accomplished everything on the team level, even on an individual level. He just needs that MVP to capture everything in basketball. And then on the other side, you got Embiid, who his teams have accomplished basically nothing, but he has won MVP. And Tatum is definitely overhated, especially given he's now a champion. He's done everything. He still doesn't really get respect. But Embiid is the most hated player in the league right now. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, and he probably gets too much hate, but at the same time, all the reasons people do hate him, like lack of team success, foul bait, and also the fact that he's kind of just an asshole, like all valid reasons.
Oh my God. When did he do that? Did y'all see that?
That he's kind of just an asshole, like
oh my God.
all valid reasons.
Embiid!
Before we start talking about why Embiid is so hated, please give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on any new videos.
I'm just happy we moved forward from LeBron James being the most hated in the league. Now, I still do think, you know, there's still a level of hate that still exists for LeBron just because of motherfuckers who do not know how to let go of shit from years past. But, yeah, no. I will say this. I think Joel Embiid, definitely the most hated player in the league right now. Jason Tatum, I think at this point, and maybe this is me coping, let me know in the comment section down below. I feel like a lot of the hate is forced, and a lot of it is just funny. Like, people just want to get in on a joke. And NBA Twitter told them to hate Jason Tatum, so now they hate Jason Tatum. You know, NBA Twitter and social media told them it's not cool to root for Jason Tatum, so they're just gonna join in on the meme. And I will say this: Jason Tatum pack, when it's there, it is top 3 in the league. Like, the timeline gets together when there is a Jason Tatum pack to be smoked. Doesn't matter what team you are, it will be smoked. But I feel like Joel Embiid, in terms of like hatred towards someone, it probably goes towards Joel Embiid. Like, I know too many people that genuinely do not like how he plays. People think, like, people hate the foul baiting shit. People hate the flopping shit. Well, those two go hand in hand. People think he's a dirty player, and especially this summer, him not playing for Cameroon or France and playing for Team USA, everyone thinking that's Mickey. I mean, there's definitely more arguments for Joel Embiid genuinely being hated more than JT.
First, like we just mentioned, you got to start with team success. I mean, that's the thing that always gets brought up. Dude is now 30 and he has not made the conference finals. And keep in mind, he doesn't play in the stacked West. He plays in the
30?
East and has not made the conference finals yet.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at like every other top 20 player in the league, basically all of them have at least made the conference finals, except like if you consider Wemby a top 20 player, he hasn't made it yet, but he's a rookie. He doesn't count. And I guess Shea, because also he's kind of a baby. Like, the guys who have barely been around are the ones who haven't made the conference finals. And Embiid's been around the block. He's been around since what? Like, what year was he drafted? Like 2013?
Yeah, I think a little bit after, but still, like, he has had plenty of opportunities. Yeah, Shea has only made the playoffs a couple of times and really only one season as the guy. And we're gonna quickly go over what has happened to Embiid each year. Like, sure, he has some excuses. I mean, he gets injured every year. He had to play with Ben Simmons for all those years, but at the same time, this is ridiculous. We'll start with 2018. Of course, the injuries strike. He suffers an orbital bone fracture and a concussion near the end of the season, but he comes back for game 3 versus the Heat. They take them out in 6, but in the second round versus the Celtics, he wasn't very good, and he just completely missed that layup at the end on Aaron Baines.
I mean,
I think people forget how good this 2018 Sixers team was, for real, for real. And I understand this is rookie Ben Simmons, but they were really getting their shit together going into the playoffs. And when it came to teams that you did not want to see in the East, the 76ers were probably up top. The Celtics were injured, so there were question marks with them. LeBron and the Cavs was just LeBron and a one-man army, and if you don't want to see LeBron, you can make the argument still. Everyone else wasn't good enough to really be feared, but the way the 76ers were playing going into the playoffs, I believe this was the year they had JJ Redick as well. They were legit. I was scared to face them in that second round. And for that second round to play out the way that it did, like Ben Simmons, I understand, like, it's so clear and easy now how flawed he was, but Brad Stevens, like, figuring out Ben Simmons on the fly like that and really neutralizing him and making him a negative on the court was a crazy sight to see. Crazy.
Old Al Horford was putting him in a jail.
Yes.
Again, like, this Celtics team doesn't have Kyrie. They don't have Gordo. Like, yeah, he was hurt at the end of the season. He had to wear a mask, but you gotta beat this Celtics team.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But in 2019, it looked like Philadelphia had a great chance
too,
to be a legit contender. Traded for Jimmy Butler at midseason. Took out the Nets in 5 in the first round. But we all remember what happened in the second round. Game 7 against the Raptors in Toronto. Kawhi hits that crazy buzzer beater. Embiid walks off the court crying. We've all seen the meme before. He was ass in this series. 17.5 points per game, 37% shooting. Yes, that Raptors team was a phenomenal defensive team, but can't even get to 20 points per game on
2019 is a championship that got away for a lot of East teams, man. I can't even lie. Because that was still a KD Warriors year, so everyone thought that, you know, the Warriors were going to win again. But out in the East, especially with how KD and Klay's injury ended up being in the finals, I feel like there's 4 teams that if they figured it out that year, if they weren't dysfunctional, if they didn't have injury problems and all of these different things, should have won a championship if they like individually figured it out and everyone else didn't. You know what I'm saying? So obviously the Raptors earned it. The Bucks, the Sixers, and the Celtics. If the Celtics figured shit out in 2019, it wasn't as dysfunctional as they were. If the injuries still played out the way that they did, the Celtics had a legitimate shot, but damn.
40% shooting?
That's crazy. I mean, if he's a little bit better, if he gets to that, they win the series. Once again, he's injured, of course, dealt with knee soreness all playoffs, missed game 3 versus the Nets, but still getting shut down that bad is not a good look. Then in 2020, the dumbass 76ers decide, you know what? We're investing long-term into Tobias Harris over Jimmy.
Someone's going to write a book one day on the whole trust the process era for the 76ers because, I mean, outside of drafting Embiid, they up basically every other big decision they could have, like, missed on so many others.
Yeah. Anyways, though, I mean, they make the bubble. Ben Simmons plays a couple games in the bubble, then he dips to have season-ending knee surgery, and Embiid was actually good on an individual level in this playoffs, but Celtics just worked them and they got swept. Now in 2021, Embiid really took a leap. This is the season he became one of the best players in the league, but the problem was this dude Ben Simmons just straight up gave up on him. First, the 76ers, they take out the Wizards in round 1. Embiid misses game 5 after suffering a small meniscus tear. Credit to him, he decided to play through it, and he was pretty good versus the Hawks, but Ben Simmons refused to shoot the ball, and they go out in 7.
Yeah, again, though, like, yes, Ben Simmons was having a stinker, but this Hawks team is not that good.
No, it wasn't.
And they very quickly fell off a cliff. Like,
what,
a 41 and 31 Hawks team? That was
I think so.
That was the 5th seed. You gotta be able to beat them, especially when you have a game 7 on your home floor.
2022, we know the stories. Ben Simmons decided, I ain't playing, I ain't showing up to work. I know he was dealing with mental health issues, but at the same time, it really seems like he just gave up on the team.
I'm about to say it.
He wasn't dealing with any mental health issues. I know we want to be sensitive to mental health and we want to,
I don't know enough about Ben Simmons
actually struggling. Ben Simmons wasn't struggling. No, I'm not falling for this.
I won't be that bold, but at the very least, he did not give any effort to get through it. Daryl Morey makes that swing to trade for Harden. It looked like a phenomenal trade at the time, and people were even saying, like, the Harden and Embiid duo, could it be a modern day Shaq and Kobe? So funny in hindsight that was even.
And don't lie, that was a thing. Don't lie to me. Don't lie. Dame and Giannis, when that was announced too, don't lie to me. Don't lie to me. The only duo, honestly, that really fulfilled that next Shaq and Kobe shit was Bron and AD. But don't lie to me now.
Remotely made as a comparison.
Who's that a bigger insult to, Shaq or Kobe? Gotta be Kobe, right?
Yeah, I would say so. But both of them as a whole.
Round 1, they beat the Raptors in 6 games, but again, Embiid gets injured, tore a ligament in his thumb in game 4. Was willing to play through it though. He postponed a potential surgery, but he also fractured his orbital bone at the end of this series. Had to miss games 1 and 2 against the Heat in the next round, and even when he came back, he wasn't 100%. Harden, of course, was stinking it up in the playoffs. It's what he does. Philly goes out in 6 to the Heat, and again, like, I know this Heat team made the conference finals. I know they'd go on to make the finals the next year, but like, on paper, they were the better team.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. Embiid was so hurt. This year...
The 22 Heat were serious, though. I ain't gonna lie. I feel like going into those playoffs, a lot of people were sleeping on the Heat.
I'll at least give him a pass because Harden was stinking it up, and apparently he could barely even like see bright lights without getting a migraine. But the following year, I'm not giving him a pass for this. They ran it back with the same core. Embiid finally wins his MVP. We've said in past videos, we don't think he deserved it, but at the same time, he won it. He had a phenomenal season. They swept the Nets in round 1. Embiid sprained his knee. Again, it gets injured every year. This is one of the ones where maybe slimming down a bit would help, but who knows. Then they played the Celtics in round 2, and Embiid honestly wasn't really that good. Harden actually had some great games. They go up 3-2. You got a chance to win on your home court. You lose that with Tatum going off at the end. And then in game 7.
Well, nah. You skip something now. 3-2 lead on your home court, right? Tatum having the worst game of his life. And somehow we walk out of that game and said James Harden low-key had a worse game than JT. Yo, James, man.
Or you lose that with Tatum going off at the end. And then in game 7, you get blown out with once again Tatum going off.
Yeah.
Embiid needed to be better.
Yeah.
Harden was the better player for them this series. I know Embiid, once again, he's injured. I don't care. You got a game 6 on your home court. This is the game you need to take over and win, and he didn't get it done.
Yeah, and even
I think the problem with the Sixers over these last years is just they build their roster like a 2K team, like for like in a bad way. Let me get that straight. In a bad way. And what I mean by that is they always build teams that are good on paper. You know what I'm saying? That have talent, arguably the most talent in the conference. But in terms of fit, in terms of chemistry issues, in terms of, you know, the players they're relying on being injury prone, shit just never works out. And even the coach doesn't help too. You know, people were high on Brett Brown till they weren't, and then they brought in Doc Rivers, and Doc Rivers was Doc Rivers, so now they got Nick Nurse. I really hope Nick Nurse doesn't become a scapegoat for this team, but I just feel like they never really sat down and said, okay, do these teams fit together, or are we just trying to get, or do we believe that it's just a matter of, hey, if we have the most talent, we'll figure out one of these years? Because that was the whole thing with the process. It was drafting every year, getting the highest draft pick possible, tanking every single season. Fuck trying to build a winning culture on this team. We are going to play the game like it literally is 2K. And we're seeing the effects of that right now, bro.
Even if you drop game 6 on your home court, put up a fight in game 7.
That game wasn't remotely
They
close.
got smashed.
Yeah,
and I know
cooked.
Tatum went off for like 50, but it wasn't
They got
close.
cooked.
No.
And then last season, I mean, it looked like Embiid was on the path to get his second MVP. He was torching teams like it was going out of style, dropped 70 on Big Vic and the Spurs. Once again, suffers a meniscus tear. Philly really struggled without him. He returned in time for the playoffs, and honestly, he was great in the playoffs, but once again, he was dealing with injuries. He injured his knee in game 1 against the Knicks and was also dealing with a mild case of Bell's palsy. Credit to Embiid for playing through a condition like that. Like, I can't imagine that's easy to play through.
But that's always been my biggest problem with Embiid, specifically post Ben Simmons, is the fact that, yes, he's injured, right? I'm not going to act like he wants to be injured. I'm not going to go that far and make those assumptions. He's not making up injuries. And yes, I do feel bad, and yes, I understand this guy is hobbled, so he can't play at 100%. But when that happens every single year, I just cannot keep on giving you the benefit of the doubt and saying that the other team would have lost if Embiid was fully healthy. No, bro. If this is happening every single year, this is not a what if. This is just who you are as a player. You are injured every single year. We expect you to be injured going into every single playoffs, and we would like to see a healthy run from you, but I'm not going to take away from other teams because you keep on getting injured. That's just not fair. And I'm also not going to continuously give the Philadelphia 76ers a pass because, again, you can't get healthy. This is just what the team is. This is the player that they build around, and the results are just the results. You decided to draft a player that going into the league was already injured. Everyone already knew who was going to miss his first season. And then you decided to build around this dude for the next decade. Like, at some point, bro, you don't have sympathy from me. You just don't.
At the same time, like in his mid to late 20s, he's had all these injuries pile up. I can't imagine what it's going to be like when he's in his mid 30s.
Yeah, I mean, now he's over the hill. He's past 30. Like, injuries have hurt him this bad so far. It's not going to get better. The Knicks eventually take him out in 6. And again, he was really good in this series. You look at the plus minus, you look at the stats. He put up 50 that one game. But again, going out in the first round, like, it's not a good look. And that brings us to next year. You add Paul George. You still got Maxey. They've done a nice job of rounding out the roster a little bit. Andre Drummond, Eric Gordon, Caleb Martin, Reggie Jackson. A lot of those guys are way past their prime. So you look at the Eastern Conference. Sure, there's some other good teams. Celtics obviously are going to be the big team to try and knock off the Knicks. Adam Bridges, they're going to be very good. Bucks coming back for revenge. The path is still there. Like, you knock out one of those teams in the second round. This could be the year you make the conference finals. Paul George, we'll see how he plays. Maxey has gotten better every single year, but I still don't got faith in. He has his excuses for past years, but what we've always said, he should have made one conference finals by now.
Yeah, the bar has gotten so low. It's not even championship or NBA finals anymore. It's just make the conference finals.
Just make that and your reputation will at least be saved a little bit. But at this point, maybe
we did have this discussion on the pod of who in the NBA has the most pressure going into this year. And pressure, especially after that conversation, is definitely subjective, because there is the pressure of trying to prove people that you're legit. You know what I'm saying? So the Knicks, the Magic, and those teams. I feel like if there's one team in the league we're looking at and saying, when are y'all gonna get it done? Like, everyone else has got it done. Like, when are y'all getting it done? I feel like that's the 76ers with Joel Embiid. And honestly, that's the Phoenix Suns with Devin Booker and KD. Everyone else, I think we've already either closed the book or they've actually got it done. Oh, the Bucks. I'm gonna include the Bucks in there as well. I think the Bucks, especially after getting Dame and Giannis, definitely have a lot of pressure to get it done. But I'm gonna give them a little bit of leeway because as a franchise with Giannis, you know, they still got a chip 3 years ago. So, but in terms of a franchise that doesn't have a ring within their current era, the Phoenix Suns and the 76ers are definitely them. I think there was a decent amount of pressure relief from the Clippers because Paul George left now, and people aren't like, we're just done with the Clippers. Like, all right, that era's over. So we're moving on to our next phase in Clipper Nation. The Lakers got their ring, the Celtics got their ring, the Nuggets got their ring, Bucks got their ring, Warriors got their ring. In terms of current cores in the league, I still think the Thunder and the Timberwolves are young enough for them to get like another year of a pass if they don't get it done next season. Obviously, one of them isn't going to get it done next season. But yeah, that's why me personally, I'd probably go the Philadelphia 76ers. Most pressure in the league.
Maybe he'll never make the conference finals in his entire career.
Foul baiting.
So on to the reasons people don't like this guy. The first and most obvious is he's maybe the biggest foul baiter in the entire NBA. And it's so frustrating to watch him do it specifically because with a guy like, you know, Shea or Dame or Brunson or even like Luka, when they foul bait and flop to the ground, like it kind of makes sense because they're...
It's just really frustrating to watch the biggest player on the court foul bait. That's what it is. Because I think the last time, a lot of people had a problem with how James Harden was foul baiting. If y'all remember when LeBron first came to Miami, he was known as LaFlop James. Like, that was a big thing with LeBron. And I feel like the reason why people hated LeBron was the fact that, bro, you are 6'8", 260, 270. There is no reason you should be foul baiting like this, bro. Like, no way. And with Joel Embiid, if anything, I understand he doesn't have the speed and the agility that LeBron has. But Embiid is what, 7'1", 280, 290. Like, why are you foul baiting like this, bro?
Small guys. In the case of Luka, he's a little bit bigger, but he's still, you know, not the biggest guy in the world. Embiid is bigger than like what, 95% of the league. I mean, he's 7'1", like 300 pounds. Like, he's a massive, massive human being. And to see him take the slightest bit of contact and just go to the ground, it's so frustrating. And it was so satisfying to watch in the game against Serbia, him try to flop to the ground and the refs just not even call it.
Yeah. I also, and maybe this is just me, I don't like this specifically for Joel Embiid because of his injury history. Is that just me? I feel like flopping and putting your body in situations to land like this. Now, I understand you do have more control over it because you are flopping, but putting your body in situations to, this is a crazy screenshot, by the way, crazy pause, but putting your body in situations to flail like this and just fall on the ground, like even this one against Team USA, like look at how he, like, that's dangerous. Not only for Joel Embiid, but other players on the court. That's a 7'1", 300-pound dude just falling over. And if you're behind him, that could catch your fucking leg, and now your leg snapped in half. Like, that's dangerous, bro. I don't like that shit, bro. Not even just for Joel Embiid. Because to be honest with you, I don't have a problem with foul baiting. That's just me. That's an unpopular take from me. I feel like the rules are the rules. The objective of the game is to put points on the board, and if you know how to play the game, not necessarily the right way, the ethical way, but put points on the board, they get it. People, you know, at the end of the day, will look back in history and not know that you foul baited. I feel like, at least, they're going to look at them stats, they're going to look at them rings, they're going to look at them awards, and that's how your legacy will be defined, not necessarily that you're a foul baiter.
I mean, the NBA needs to adopt some of these rules because nobody wants to see that stuff. Like, watching free throws is not entertaining. Watching flopping is even less entertaining.
It's frustrating.
In the NBA, they did tighten up their whistle near the end of last season, going to the playoffs, and I desperately hope they keep that. But also, we were talking about before the recording, they need to bring back giving technicals for flopping. Like, they always say they're gonna do it, and then they do it for a week and just completely abandon it. Start giving these out.
Which is crazy to me, bro. Because I swear that happened last season, like the first 2 weeks. And for some reason, the NBA, like 2 weeks in, just stopped it. And that's why I say the NBA isn't necessarily rigged, in my opinion, but the leeway that these referees have and the inconsistency as to how they enforce the rules, it just exists. It just exists. And I feel like, personally, referees have such control of the flow of the game that, can you say it's rigged? Not necessarily, because I don't believe in the whole magnet theory. I do believe that, you know, the 9 times out of 10, the best team wins. But in terms of controlling the flow of the game, one game they can go in and say, yo, this is going to be a much more physical game than the next. Next game, they can blow the whistle like I don't know, every 5 seconds. I've even seen this within games. Like the first half, lax on the whistle. Soon as the third quarter rolls around, first possession of the third quarter, now we're just throwing the whistle out. And then the fourth quarter, it's a mix. Like, that's the one thing I hate about referees in general. But at the same time, it is human. It's human to be inconsistent. And I feel like, personally, y'all would be more annoyed if there was, like, if the rules were black and white and people really did abuse the system to the point where, like, referees had to legitimately be patched, like, robotically. But nevertheless.
Like, you rack up technicals, you might get suspended, maybe you end up getting ejected from a game for flopping or something. Like, we need to do something to stop this, because it is completely out of hand.
Yeah, hand technicals out like candy, and this isn't even like Embiid's fault. He's a competitor. He's gonna use the strategy that he feels is the most optimal.
Like that shit is dangerous.
This is an NBA problem.
Yeah.
Like, the NBA needs to tighten this shit up. It's so frustrating as a fan to watch, and there have been some,
look
like,
at
some
that,
people
bro.
Speculate, oh, his doctors are
is
telling
that
him
safe
to do
for
that.
Jason
like,
Collins?
his doctors are telling him to, you know,
or
flop
John
to the ground
Collins?
so he doesn't
My bad.
land all his force, like, on his knees and ankles and whatnot. Okay, that's fine. Don't call a fucking foul, though.
Yeah, exactly.
When he goes down to the ground with no contact whatsoever, if he's doing that to protect himself, that's fine. Doesn't mean you have to call a foul.
And the last point we want to make on Embiid that people don't like, dude's an asshole on the court.
He's a complete asshole on the court.
Like, I don't know off the court if he is, and it's kind of his brand at this point, and the NBA does need some villains, but some of these plays could result in legit injuries. Like, there was the play when he was driving in on Nurkic this year, just completely elbowed him. That had to hurt. He pulled Mitchell Robinson's legs down when he was going for a layup.
Crazy.
How this wasn't an ejection,
I don't know.
I got
that's
no idea.
crazy.
Should have been an ejection and maybe even a suspension. Shoulder check Jalen Brunson in the playoffs. playoffs. Last year when Nick Claxton like walked over him, he kicked him. Then there's been a couple times when him and Marcus Smart have gone at it, which is just so funny because both of them just end up flopping like crazy. He dove at John Collins in the 2021 playoffs.
My God.
2019, he had a vicious elbow on Jared Allen. There's plenty of other cases if you look up the YouTube compilations. I mean, I know the NBA's been criticized for being soft by the old heads, but like I said, like some of these plays could legit get dudes
my
injured.
God.
Yeah, there's a difference between physical play and like dirty, reckless play that can injure your opponents.
And one last thing I got to bring up, it's unrelated to the whole dirty play thing, but this whole process nickname, it's time to retire that.
Yeah.
Like I get for the first 5 or 6 years, trust the process, like give it time. Is this dude going to be 33 without making the conference finals, still called the process?
He's gonna be retired and still called the process. It's not time to retire that nickname. It's time to bury it in a shallow grave.
And with all that being said, even though we just tore into this dude for the past like 15 minutes or so, I honestly don't really hate Embiid. Kind of crazy to say, but there is very valid reasons that he is hated. And also, I'm a fan of a team on the Western Conference. Like if I was a fan on the team in the East, if I'm a Celtics fan, I would.
That's me.
It's like if I was a fan on the team in the East, if I'm a Celtics.
Yo, Buzz, come here. Buzz, you made it on the big screen. Look, it's you and mommy. Nah, that's funny, man. That's funny.
Celtics fan, I would hate this dude's guts.
Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, he does kind of play that villain role. The NBA does generally need that guy. But it's definitely valid that he's hated, given the reasons we just gave out.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest...
I'm gonna be honest. You can't hate someone you always beat. What is there to hate about? Has he ever beaten us?
criticism I can give for Embiid is I just don't like watching him play.
Yeah.
I mean, for one of the best players in the world, I mean, I can't think of another top 10
He brings
player
me
in
a
the
lot of
league
joy.
that I don't like watching play as much as Joel Embiid. Like, I love watching Jokic play, or Wemby play, or LeBron, Giannis, you know, all these guys. Luka, Tatum, Shea. I love watching him play. Embiid, watching him play is just so frustrating. It's the biggest insult I could say, is that it's frustrating as a neutral to watch him play.
Me personally, most hated player in the league. For me, Jimmy still got a case. I just feel like he writes a lot of checks, and I don't necessarily know the cash-in rate for Jimmy Butler's checks. But shout out to Synthetic Sports for the video. Link to their video will be in the description down below. And I'm out of here, man. Peace.